broadcasting live from an undisclosed location in the universe. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live, the show where metaphysics, holistic living, motivation, and inspiration come together to empower your mind, body, and soul. We will dive deep into the realms of metaphysical wisdom, exploring the fascinating connections between mind and matter. Get ready to ignite your inner spark and embrace a journey of self-discovery. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Beautiful day. Beautiful, beautiful day. Beautiful day. As I'm sitting here on my lawn chair, on my table, taking in the sun, contemplating and wondering, I don't know, about everything, some things, nothing. There's just a lot happening right now in our timeline, our existence, our moment. And it just kind of makes you wonder, you know. I don't know what your beliefs are. I don't know what you believe, if you believe anything. Maybe you do, maybe you don't believe in a higher power, higher source, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the devil. I don't know what you believe. But I sit here and I contemplate, I wonder. As I watch the world, you know, just kind of doing its thing from my little box that I live in, my little house, and my little tube that I turn on from time to time, and my little cell phone I turn on, and I try to navigate and try to look at everything and say, this is what's really happening in the world. This is what's really going on. And I try to decipher. Hi, Sherry. I hope you're feeling better. And try to decipher what's happening, what's going on. And I came across this video. I actually came across a lot of videos. Actually, I post a lot of videos. I post a lot of stuff on my page because I want to see what everybody has to say and where they stand and how they feel about things. And some things I'm in alignment with. Some things are a little too crass from even my page to post. And then some things are just, doesn't seem like they would be part of what I believe. But I post it because I want people to see what their neighbors are feeling, where they are emotionally, other people, not the peanut gallery that we all kind of live in. You know, we're all in these little peanut galleries where we're all in the same group. So it's like we're all safe in there, and we're all inside the little egg carton. The 12 of us are together, and none of us feel any pain or any remorse or anger. Oh, don't let anybody in our egg basket, you know, because if we do, then we'd have to change. We'd have to listen to somebody. We'd have to go, oh my God, they're different than us. So, you know, I see some Latinos, some Hispanics, some Peruvians, and some Jewish, some Middle Easterns, some Asians, and, you know, and there's this misconception, there's this illusion that because you're a minority, you're supposed to lean one way or the other. And quite frankly, I don't believe that. Just because your thoughts are one way, or some people project their feelings and emotions more than others, then they kind of create this representation of what people think people are. But not all Latinos are on board with everything that other Latinos think about, because you got to remember, most people are from different countries. I'm Peruvian. People from Chile, Chile, not, vice versa, sometimes don't like each other. And it's because of history, the Pacific Wars, I mean, I can get into that, but you can look it up. I share that stuff sometimes. And, I remember on many occasions, like, my son would bring a friend over, and they were from, I'm just going to use Chile as an example, and my dad was like, why do you have a Chilean friend? It was just like, wow, because I never heard that. Is it racism? No. It's a remembrance. It's an anger. It's a frustration of how their ancestors were treated. Me personally, I don't know any different because I'm Peruvian, but I grew up most of my life here. And then I'm watching this video today, and I see this pastor, and he's talking about, and those of you who are biblical probably follow along a little bit more than others, maybe. And most people that God picks, nobody really liked them. Nobody really liked Moses. They really thought Moses was crazy, and Moses led him 40 years into the desert, lost, and then they created a false idol, and then the Ten Commandments came from that. I mean, so no one really digged him because it was just kind of like that. And then you have David, David, he slew Goliath, but before that, nobody cared about him. No one liked him. He was kind of like, some dude who played a harp, but he was chosen by God according to biblical standards, and then you have Jesus. Nobody liked him either. Everybody thought he was crazy, Even the Jews, they had him crucified, And throughout time, things develop and things change. But I sat there and I thought, and when I heard that, I was like, there's a lot of people like that, And then I think about, the flood, the flood. I'm just like, wow, that's crazy, Or you think about, Abraham going up in the mountain, his son, and just the demands that a God would put on. Am I right? Am I wrong? No, it's not. I'm not here to prove or defend. I'm just talking. I'm just talking, I'm just talking because those are reference points that a lot of us know. And so I look at the world today, I'm like, how many people don't you like because they're just different than you, because they don't agree with you, or they're not like you, or they don't resonate with you? We all probably have that, a group of people, a handful of people like that. And we don't like them because they don't fit our standard. And, I can say the same thing. There are people who I don't resonate with. But does it make me bad? No, it doesn't make me bad. It doesn't make you bad. It's just an observation. I watch how all of this stuff plays out. I watched like the Epstein files, how it played out. And, you can sit here and you can say, oh yeah, but they've had those files for years, and those files have been, hey Elaine, how are you? Those files have been in many administrations. They have been. And, and I'm thinking myself, I'm thinking about that. I'm going, I remember all the yelling and screaming that people were talking about, but what I remember the most is release the files, because it was more about release the files because we want to get Trump. It was never about let's save let's vindicate the people who are abused. I've never heard that until just recently, It was always about let's see who's in the files. And then you know what happened? I watched Robert De Niro, I watched Whoopi Goldberg, I watched all these actors, and they're all like, trying to campaign against Trump, and he won. I mean, what are you going to do? He won, right? He's there. But I watched all these celebrities, I watched all these politicians, and they're all like, I'm pretty smart, I'm pretty educated, I think. And I think there's more fear that they were going to get ratted out, because they knew they were on this list. They knew that they were all, their names were going to appear. What I don't think is that they didn't realize how many, like Ellen DeGeneres, right? You know, I don't think they realize it is all going to be like mentioned that many times. You know, most people don't think about that. Most people don't think about anybody saving anything, right? Most of us delete our stuff and move on. Not this guy, you know, because he figured one day something's going to come down. And then I watched how everybody's like, oh, let's release the files. Come on, let's do it. Blah, 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 blah. Redactions. And you know what? They released the files. But of course, people aren't satisfied because it's not enough release. And then the way they released it and the way they exposed people's names and stuff. But what's interesting is watching these people squirm whose names are on the file, who were like, oh, I'm watching Hillary Clinton, you know, and you know, and I went into the files and I looked at some things. There's a lot of stuff there, man. And how Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and how people trying to vindicate them like they're some great people. They're not great people, man. They know more stuff about what happened on that island than we'll ever know. And to pretend like we're stupid and like, okay, you don't know this guy? Give me a freaking break, man. Photos. There's so many photos of them together. It's not even funny. How do you not know somebody? Come on. And they've been in the news. I don't buy that. You can buy it all you want. You do what you want. But I sit here and I watch the news and I watch how we bomb Iran. And then I hear the news. I turned on Al Jazeera and I turned on BBC because I wanted to get a different perspective too. BBC and Al Jazeera talk about how the Iranians, there's a regime in there, killed over 30,000 people, protesters, like it was like a blink of an eye, like no big deal. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, could you imagine if we killed 30,000 people? Let alone the two who were killed, or not to forget Kent State too, and those people who died in Kent State, you know, we forget about those folks, you know, those young people. And so I'm thinking to myself, does this make it right to do what we're doing? Am I conflicted? Does it bother me? I'm thinking to myself, I'm kind of thinking about the people who want freedom, the people who want to be more independent and not fall under such stringent rules and control. Because that's how I was raised. That's how I was raised in this country. This country is like, give me liberty, give me liberty or give me death, right? Kind of one of those things, right? And so when I see people struggle like that, I'm thinking, do these people deserve that? Do they even want that? Can they even obtain that? Will that even be possible? Excuse me. Because that might not be possible. Because everything's just intertwined and intertwined with religion. And that's why we have separation of church and state here. So we don't have these kind of ideologies built up like that. When you know, religious leaders have the final say in what happens. The Catholic Church was notorious for that. They had the final say of what happened to people. And the reason a lot of people were killed is because they were perceived as heathens. They were perceived as inferior, less than. So the world's all about control. It's all about money. It's all about who can possess what, who can enslave who, and who can dominate the other. And, you know, our political leaders, they live from a fear-based energy, you know. They all live from that energy of that if we don't protect the Commonwealth or we don't protect the homeland, then we're going to suffer. But yet, I'm sitting here in my house, and, you know, I'm sitting here looking at my dogs in the yard, looking at the sky, and I'm going, you know what? My life is not a bad life. I don't have a bad life. I have freedom. I know if I step further down the road or drive 30 miles one way or another, I might run into a different situation. But a lot of people don't have this in certain parts of the world. And then certain parts of the world, like in Europe and South America, there are people who live like this. No worries, carefree, don't just think about stuff. But there's so much happening, and we feel so removed from it sometimes. We feel so, I don't know, like it's over there and it's not over here. It's like a movie, you know? And quite frankly, I've watched this protest. I've watched people complain. I've watched people march. I've watched people say things, but in the end, what I come down and what I realize, and what I've come to the conclusion is that it's an illusion. It's all fake. The people we vote for, they pretend, they throw us a bone just to keep us busy and all of that, and then they go off and do all this other crazy stuff. Maybe you don't agree with that, but that's okay. It's all right. But I noticed that. I'm watching that now. I'm watching that, that Republicans, Democrats, moderates, it doesn't matter who it is, they don't give a shit about us. They don't give 2 ounce nothing about us. Listen, I watched the union, when Trump addressed the union. What a showboat on both sides. It wasn't one side. It was both sides. Both sides just played their roles. And we sucked in there, and we were like, and you know what? It's what cracks me up is how people saw so many different things from so many different vantage points, and those of you who watched it and drew from whatever you drew out what you wanted to draw out. If you didn't like Trump, you drew out what you didn't like about Trump, and if you don't like Democrats, you drew out what you didn't like about Democrats. And those of you who think that people were manipulated, like the hockey team was manipulated, they were sucked in there to do that. They have freedom. They have freedom of choice. They have freedom of will. They came. They wanted to be there. And then we get so petty. I mean, then I watch where what really bothered me the most was the lack of humanity in all that. I'm not saying Trump's a perfect guy. I'm not saying Trump's like this great person. That's far from that. And I know it was all propaganda on both sides. It's both sides playing their propaganda game against all of us to pick sides. All of us to go, oh, the Democrats didn't stand up. They're anti-American. They like illegal aliens. I heard that. And then I heard, oh, insider trading. Listen, in my country, if you go in and you make $30,000 a year or $20,000, and you come out making millions or $5 million a year, you're corrupt. It means you take bribes. So like these guys, insider trading, right? Boy, everybody clapped for that one. I was like, wow. They all clapped for that. I wonder why. I wonder why they clapped. Because they know. They know. And they all protect each other. All these politicians, they all protect each other, man. They're all. I'm watching the, a little bit, not all of it, but the depositions with the Clintons. I watched how they protect. I heard what Clinton said. I didn't see anything. I didn't witness anything. I'm going, maybe you didn't do anything. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? At least that's what we want to do, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and then I'm thinking, wow, these guys are all in it together. And those of you who think that this is just like, no. The reason you don't hear much about the Epstein files is because they're all in it together. They're all trying to figure. If you don't think that they sat in a room and talked and said, hey, we're going to put you out here, but you got to like totally deny everything. It's about their asses. It's about them saving themselves. It ain't nothing about us or these people who are victimized. They can care less about those people. And the only reason that they do anything for those people is because they want to create a show. They want to create this show about and show you, oh yeah, look, we're advocating for these people. Listen, if they wanted to advocate, they could have advocated months and years ago. And were they? Possibly. Are there good people out there trying to do the right thing? Sure. But these super ultra rich people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, all the people, all these top hobnogging guys and these people who, the Prince Andrews and all these people who resigned and all these people, they all know what happened on there. They all know what their part was. Will we ever find out? No. We'll never find out. Maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 fall, and that's it. And people are dropping out. But you know what? I'm finding that it's just one big joke game, and we're the suckers. We're the suckers, man. Because we buy into that. We buy into that smut. And poor people who were hurt and abused get no justice. Now, is anything possible? Sure, now we're talking conspiracy theories, right? Because now conspiracy theories, everybody's like, oh yeah, well, Trump took his name out of everything. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But that's a conspiracy theory. So we can't go down there, because people who have conspiracy theories, no one takes them serious. So we can't really have that conversation. And he's admitted that he's knows the guy, and then he turned him in, supposedly. But see, this is all a show. This is like Apprentice 29. This is the Apprentice show. We're in Donald Trump's show. We're on national TV. All of us. Every single one of us. You, me, everybody. Regardless of what you say or don't say. Look, I'm talking about this shit. I'm sitting here at my desk where I could be out doing something nice. But the reason I'm talking about it is because I'm watching the world that I live in play out in a weird way. And you know what? This has always been. And, a long time ago, somebody told me, a really old elder of mine, Native American elder, says, the Crusades never ended, Ignacio. The Crusades never ended, Ignacio. And he left me with that thought to ponder. And I had to come to my conclusions, and now my conclusions are, he's right. He was right when he said that to me. He's no longer with us, but he's right. The Crusades never ended. It is shifted into modern times and modern warfare. You looking at me, you're probably going, the freak did Iggy? What did he do in Hillsborough yesterday? At the drum circle. It's not that. When you don't have an army, you outbreed the next way. It's about outbreeding the next group. I posted this years ago about how the Muslims and the Hispanics and the Christians and the churches all, create migrations and stuff in order to have our children marry into certain sects of religious orders. And so that's why we allow Hispanics to run into our country, because we would rather have more of a Christian-based orientation of people in our world than we would have people, worshiping the other side, the Muslim faith. Because it's a war, because it's a crusades, it's a battle for supremacy. One does it one way and one does it the other way. And you may look at me and say I'm crazy. And you may look at me going, what the heck is going on with Iggy? What's wrong with him? Ain't nothing wrong with me. It's just I think about things. And I listen to when I talk to people. I don't just cut them off. I don't just go say, oh, I hate you because you like Trump. I don't do that. Because you'll never learn anything if you alienate people just because they think different than you. And if you do that, that's your business. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But you're never going to ever understand what the other side's thinking if the only side you're thinking about is the side you're on. How are you going to understand people who you perceive as an enemy, people you perceive as not worthy of you, Listen, when I was growing up, we never talked about voter fraud in this country. At least I never heard it. And now, all of a sudden, that's like a big thing now, all of a sudden, in America. The land of the free. Here in the United States, we're talking about voter frauds. Accusations on both sides. Not just one side. There's always been accusations on both sides. It's not one-sided. Do some research on Obama. Obama is a really crafty guy. When he was running for certain offices in Chicago, he'd actually go down all the voter rolls and double-check, make sure that people were validated in order to vote, and then people got disqualified. Look it up. I'm not making this up. And the reason I know this is because when I ran for office, I got my things unvalidated because they weren't done. They weren't done properly. There's always somebody checking. There's always someone looking. And then sometimes when you're not there and you're not present, they screw you, and they tried to screw me. And they did, because I did it wrong, because I screwed myself, because I should have listened. And I didn't listen because I trusted the person that told me that I did it right. And that's how we live in this world sometimes. We trust what we hear sometimes, and the information is not always correct. There's some things in here that I may not be saying properly. You may not understand what I'm trying to say. The other illusion is that all minorities that that all minorities need some kind of help and some kind of validation that we have to be rescued. Listen, I'm a minority according to the status quos and whatever, but I don't need no rescuing. I'm very capable to go to work and do what I have to do. You know, I'm very capable to compete if I want to compete against somebody for a bid for a job when I had my construction company, my landscaping company. And it wasn't that I didn't win. It's just sometimes you just didn't have the expertise for it. And now I do my drumming. Listen, just recently, in the last couple of years, when I was doing my drum circles, I had people complaining because they didn't like the way I did my drum circle. They didn't like the metaphysical aspect of it, where I do the healing circle and everybody's healing, and then they didn't like my chanting, and then they didn't like it because I wasn't African, because I was a white guy. I'm a European, Hispanic, indigenous human from Peru. But I drum how I drum. I drum how I was taught. I drum from my culture, from my vantage point. But nobody sees that, because everybody brainwashes each other into believing that something is a certain way. I watch people, and some of you were there, I watch people, come into my circle and try to, I don't know how the word I'm going to use, but just invalidate the work I do. And I packed up my drum. That was my friend Kay. I packed up my drum, I put it in my wagon, and I left. I said, thank you, I'm out. You guys have a good time. Enjoy your circle. Listen, if you don't like me, then don't come to my drum circle, but don't play stupid games with me. Listen, there's a lot of you guys, too, who have violated women, in these groups that I know. And women have come to me in private, and I will never disclose who they are. And all you guys, those guys, you guys know who you are. And don't play stupid and pretend like it didn't happen. Because it wasn't just one woman. It was several women, And, there are women also who accuse men of stuff, too, in the circles. Not just my circle, other circles, too. And you know what? Piece of advice. Just keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hugs at a minimum. Honor and respect that the person next to you is just another human being and not a piece of meat, and that's something for your satisfaction and for you to enjoy. Just understand that. I'm a straight shooter. I'm forward to the point, I try to create safe spaces for people, but not everybody creates safe spaces for other people. And listen, if something happens to you, like if you're in any circle, and not mine, any circle, don't wait 6 months to a year to say something. After everybody's become friends and everybody's got misunderstood, or totally the information got misconstrued, or someone just took something completely wrong, and they just fester that stuff into your body. And I've had people do that. And I'm going, wow, why didn't you say something earlier? Because I could have handled it then. But they let it fester because we all come from trauma points. We all come from trigger points. We all come from places where something's triggered us, something's bothered us, something happened to us. And then, God forbid, we found that person that just opens those wounds for us. Or they remind us of somebody we don't like. Or we know. My favorite is like, oh, I know how they are because I've been around people like that all my life, and they treat me. Listen, I don't know, because number one, I've never been around you, so I have no clue. I have no idea. Not everybody's out to get you, man. And I'm going to tell you that as plain in English as you can hear it. Not everybody's out to get you. Not everybody wants you. Not everybody's looking at you. But there are cases where there are people who supersede and overstep their bounds. Not everybody's going to hear this message, but if you are attentive, you're aware, you'll see it. So respect. Respect honors respect. My mom used to tell me that. Respect others and they'll respect you. And if they don't respect you, then you have to move on. Listen, I do my circles the way Spirit calls me and leads me to do. Some days I do the healing circle. I didn't do a healing circle yesterday. I didn't do the healing part at the end yesterday because Spirit didn't call me to do that. Spirit wanted me to roll in a different direction. I connect to my ancestors. I connect, in those energies. Sometimes a new song comes out of my mouth. Those of you who support the work I do, thank you. I appreciate it. And those of you who don't like what I do, I say thank you too. It just means I have some more work to do. And I'm not trying to say everybody needs to like it. I'm just trying to create something for people to do, something for people to connect with. There's so much hatred in the world, so much anger and frustration in this world. Can't we get along for 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, depending on the big events? Can't we just get along for a little bit and just have fun? But many people make it political with me because I don't stand up one way or the other, or if I say something that offends you. Listen, if you want to play the Latino card or the minority card, I'm a minority too. But I don't perceive myself as a minority. I don't look at myself as a minority. I look at myself as a human being. And if you guys read my stuff, I use the word human being a lot, a human, in a lot of things that I write. Because before we're anything, we're human. When we're born, we're just a baby. We have no connection to where we're from. The only connection we have is the people who raise us and teach us in the indoctrination of all the things that come with that. You're a Christian usually, or probably because your mom was Christian, your dad was Christian. Maybe you're a certain religion because your folks were a certain religion. Maybe you don't have any foundation of religion because you didn't have that growing up. But that's where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to say. As my dog's barking, the neighbors are having her bark. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed my little rant, my little talk. But I had to share that a little bit because there's just a lot happening right now. And so you can see this kind of content on YouTube. It's Good to Be Here, Iggy Garcia, or my YouTube channel, Facebook, my website, iggygarcia.com. And with that, I'll just let you guys go. All right, take care. Peace and love.